All right, leaving the gym here. This is what's been on my mind today, and it's plain and simple, and it's all about overtraining, right? So many people want to talk about overtraining, and usually, the science nerdery that they come up with is, the stimulus to fatigue ratio, that's why you shouldn't deadlift, because the stimulus to fatigue ratio is not good enough, and that's why we don't do any barbell lifts, not enough stimulus, too much fatigue, all right? And guys like Dr. Mike are the biggest offenders here, and really this is, it's not that their points are completely irrelevant, but they do not apply to 99% of lifters, because 99% of us are not advanced enough to benefit from even thinking about a stimulus to fatigue ratio and even thinking about overtraining, because you are not overtraining. I can almost guarantee that if you're watching this video, you are not overtraining. And here's why, even if you're doing the big lifts, the stimulus to fatigue ratio is completely irrelevant when the total amount of fatigue is easily recoverable from. So you have to think about that. Why do you care about the stimulus to fatigue ratio when the sum of all the fatigue from all your workouts is just incredibly minimal, right? Because, you're just doing a bunch of light cables and a bunch of, mechanically optimal training on light machines and isolations. And none of that stuff is giving you any real fatigue. And that's why they champion it. But even if you're doing the big lifts, you're not getting enough fatigue anyway. Guys, I deadlift every week. I Romanian deadlift every week. I squat every week. I bench, I overhead press every week. And you can, really get after it. You can exert yourself and push it to the limit with, getting multiple sets all the way to failure. And you're really not going to be overtraining, right? The only time any of this advice that, these guys have, the only time it matters is if you are incredibly strong. If you're incredibly strong, if you're already an advanced or elite lifter, then you may benefit from that stuff. But, they're pandering it to the masses, to the novice and intermediate masses, as if it's relevant at all to them. And that's why it's keeping you small, because you're limiting yourself. Again, there's a big focal point of my channel is talking about people limiting themselves in the gym by not, just going for it, by not giving it an effort, by not really taking it to the level that they need to. You're always holding back, and that's not going to get you where you want. And the last thing you need to worry about is the stimulus to fatigue ratio and all that other stuff. Now, if you're not recovering, from your training, there's a huge chance that it's not because of the training, right? There may be other things in your life that you need to dial in, like your sleep. Maybe you're not eating enough. That's another one that most of you guys are guilty of these days, is just eating like a bird, and then being surprised when you look like a beanstalk, right? So if you're not eating enough calories and you're not sleeping, 7 hours or more, that's, probably the cause of your lack of recovery. It's not your training, right? And if you can't get your sleep and your food in order, get that in line before you even, really worry about training, because you're not going to get as much as you could out of it anyway. So, really what you got to focus on is just getting the basic, components of your diet, just enough calories and enough protein, and getting your 7 hours plus of sleep. If you do all that, you're going to be able to recover from your training, because you're not giving it the kind of effort that's going to result in overtraining, and you're not even strong enough anyway. Even if you were pushing every single set to failure for months on end, you're still not going to be overtrained, because you're just not strong enough to really tax the body enough to the point where it's not going to recover, right? Now there are certain exceptions to this, like if you have, problems with tendonitis or something, certain exercises might flare your tendonitis up, and you're just not going to be able to recover from tendonitis. Even if you do nothing for 6 to 8 weeks, you may not recover from it. You have to find out which exercises are offending your tendonitis, and then you can manage it from there. But that's the exception. That's one little thing, and that's not what people are talking about when they talk about overtraining. So, don't fall for all this fancy Dr. Mike crap where, he wants to sound so smart. Oh, I'm a doctor. Yeah, I have a PhD. I know way more than you guys about everything. And let me tell you, you're overtraining even though you can't even bench 2 plates, right? Oh yeah, you can't even deadlift 4 plates, but you're overtraining because the deadlift it's so suboptimal for hypertrophy because the stimulus to fatigue ratio is so poor that, you're better off doing, a seated cable row with 50 pounds on the machine. And oh yeah, you might as well just, do the frickin' half kneeling, twisting 1-arm lat pull down, because that's more hypertrophic. So, just recognize that these guys are trying to sell you something. They're trying to sell their programs to you. So they're trying to create problems that don't exist and then sell you the solution. That's really all that it is. They're saying, oh, well, this is why your training sucks because I'm a doctor and all this fancy science and, friggin' mumbo jumbo studies that don't even really say what I'm saying. And the research is conflicting anyway, but I cherry picked these couple so that I can point out this problem that doesn't even exist or apply to you. And now I will sell you the solution to it just by my program. So, these guys fire me up, and I just get pissed off because they're fooling so many people and they're wasting your time. So, yeah, that's it.